What's going on, everybody? Hey, big week. It's up. Good to see y'all again. Welcome to another episode of Just Talking Ball. I'm your host, Texas Jayhawk, and as always, I got my boy, E. Foster in the building. What's going on? We're going to have a lot of nonverbals in this thing this week. What's going on, man?
Oh man, hey, life imitates art, and in this case, art is the game. Survive and advance, baby. Just get to the next day.
That's it. I know you're representing that win. Nevertheless, some may say ugly win in Lexington, but we'll get to that. But it's a lot's going on. It's really picking up. I like to say close to halfway through the college football season. I think I read today 2 more weeks till the first college football playoff rankings come out. So it's rolling. There's so much stuff outside of just the game, man. But like before we get into anything, let's just put the agenda up because it's rolling. Coach's carousel continues. We're always going to get, as always, we stay mad, but yeah, we stay mad. But we're going to talk about Texas, Kentucky, and then preview Stark Vegas trip coming up for the Longhorns. We're going to talk about the Sunflower Showdown and get a little more detail with some film, talking about Kansas offensively, defensively, and also talking about Kansas State offensively and defensively and really breaking some things down of what Kansas can do to be successful against those Wildcats from the Little Apple. And then we'll go to games and predictions, man. So just, let's go right into it. And I don't know what your deal is, but I'm going to go first because the only thing I'm mad about is this. That's who I'm mad at. I stay mad at. Now, there's been some things you and I have talked off camera, and we've talked about some things, and we see things, and I don't want to give this any more energy because it's actually dying down, but they had I'm not going to get into it. People need to respect what NFL greats have done, and they need to keep them where they are and respect the game, especially if you've never played in NFL. I never played in NFL. I would never fix my mouth to say someone is sorry in the NFL or someone sucks. You may underachieve, but you had to have done something to get there because you can't lie about your 40 time. You can't lie about your bench press, and numbers don't lie statistically on what you did at the previous place that you were to get to the NFL. Now, yeah, there's some guys that slip through the cracks. Everybody don't transition, just like everybody don't translate from high school football to college football. Now, just because you play doesn't mean you're it's tough. I don't want to step on any toes, but it is what it is. Like, I was fortunate enough to play Division I ball, and I'm going to stand on that. I was a 2-time all Big 12 performer, second team and honorable mention. Hey, that's it. I'm not sitting here saying I was the best to ever do it, but you've never heard me say that on camera about what I was as an all Big 12 performer. But you got some people that just run their mouth, and I don't know. I'm a little older. I'm not into the clickbait. I'm not into the all attention. I just want to get views. I just want to get attention. No, I stand on facts. I stand on head-to-head competition. And, I was blessed to have some success there at Kansas. And I played at 5'7", 160 to 185 pounds. And it is what it is. Thank God for it. But today's generation, just, I grew up respecting the ones before me. I grew up watching the ones before me. When I got to Kansas, when an older guy said, this is what you need to do, that's what I did because they're there. They've been there, and now everybody just want to be there. Microwave generation. Everybody wants to just say, oh, I did that. No, you didn't. And you know what? They want to say how good they are, but I'm sitting here and I'm here to say that some of these people suck. They suck. I don't care where you are. And I don't want to down anybody because I've got a lot of love for a lot of people that played the game at different levels of it. But it's levels to this thing. And the NFL is the elite. The highest I ever got is I played in the Canadian League. I had NFL workouts, but I played in the CFL. I played some arena ball. That's it. But, I love ball. But when you start running your mouth about NFL players and greats, that is another level. But I digress. But but nevertheless, tell me, E, what are you mad about, man?
I'm mad about bias, and I'll break it into 2 categories. I think right now, folks are so adamant to prove that they don't have a pro-Texas bias, that they're having an anti-Texas bias. I don't think I've ever, and I went back and looked, and I couldn't find one. ChatGPT couldn't find one. If any of our viewers can find one, drop it in the comments.
Come on, or hit us up
Um,
on
but
Instagram. Yep.
I've never seen a team go on the road and win a night game in the SEC and drop in the rankings. I just haven't seen it. Ugly win, did not play well. We'll get into that, and I'll be very fair to the game, but the outcome is the outcome. And apples to oranges, 2 years ago when Georgia won the national championship, they went to Lexington and they won 13-12 and moved up in the rankings, right? And so again, ugly win, didn't play well, but if anybody honestly believes that there are 21 teams in the country better than Texas, you're crazy. So I think that's a part of like the anti-Texas bias, trying to prove that you're not pro-Texas, which is ridiculous. Just call balls and strikes, and it is what it is. You survived and you advanced.
Yeah.
A lot of folks didn't. A lot of folks went and played teams that are worse than Kentucky and didn't escape with a dub, right? And that's what it was. It was an escape. Not going to lie about it, not going to sugarcoat it, not going to mythically make Kentucky something that they're not to make the win look better, but it was an SEC night game on the road.
And I agree. And, you know, I'm not an SEC guy, but before you continue on, I will say, if you're going to talk about the prestige of the SEC from top to bottom, and then when conference play starts and you have what should have been against not good as, but then it shows that this SEC caliber team plays this team hard. Now it's like, oh, no, that y'all should have beat them better. But you're contradicting yourself.
Agreed.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
and I think that's where it gets lost in the shuffle, where you're comparing the should have or the possible to what was. Should we have beat them worse? Absolutely. I agree with that. Kentucky probably agrees with that. But did we win the game? And I think, you know, at a minimum, you got to respect that. Now, that catapults me into the second part of bias, which is, I think there are two types of bias. There is unearned bias, and then there's earned bias. Michael Jordan led the league in foul calls for him 4 different times over his career. Did the refs show a bias in that? Absolutely. But was it an earned bias because he was the best player on earth? Absolutely. Then you have people, i.e., I'll use Texas as an example. Every year under the Charlie Strong era, I believe we started the season ranked. There was no merit, no precedent, nothing that we had done in the year prior, nothing that we had done to deserve that bias. So there's deserved and undeserved. For people who are up in arms for the SEC bias, that is a deserved bias. When you look on paper, what these teams do in bowl games versus other conferences, what they do in non-conference against other conferences, when you start adding up the titles, this conference is, for all intents and purposes in the last 20 years, the best conference in the world. And so that bias is earned. And for, you know, it's crazy to me because I'll pick on the Big 12 just a little bit. There's 16 teams. There's 16 teams in the SEC. I believe there are 14 in the Big 12, right? So if we cut off the bottom 4 in the Big 12, the bottom 6 in the SEC, we don't have to. I'm doing this to just make it fair.
Yeah.
So don't think that the cutoff is going to change the world. It wouldn't. But you look at the top 10 teams in the Big 12, the top 10 teams in the SEC, no matter how you shake it up, and this will be a challenge to take away for David to see if he can come up with a better number than that. But there's you shake it up and you can pick whatever matchups you want to. There is no world where the Big 12 wins more than 2 games. No matter how you shake up the top 10, you take the top 10 from the Big 12 and the top 10 against the SEC, and you can match them up however you want to.
Because off the top of my head, I'm thinking about
the Big 12 wouldn't be favored in any of the games.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking right now, you talk about bottom SEC. I'm thinking, you know, Kentucky, Mississippi State.
Cut them out.
And
they're in the bottom of the 16.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you talking about the bottom? Yeah, it's
you take the top 10 and the top 10 in both leagues, or extend it to the 14, right? Because you'll take the 14. Yeah, there is no world.
Yeah, because if you take those 2 out now, it's a straight up head to head. You know, if you take those, and Yeah, and you know, and I'll agree with that as far as like, you know, caliber and performance and results. Because if you take Clemson out of the equation the last however many years,
It's even
the
worse. You
yeah
get two. You get two
it's
in the ACC. The
yeah
only conference that you get four or more, and and I'm being super generous because you can play with the matchups a little bit, is if you put them with the Big Ten,
yeah
because there are quite a
yeah
few
oh
teams
yeah
in the
yeah
SEC.
Ohio
There are
State,
quite a
yeah,
few teams in the SEC.
Michigan,
You throw that away, right? You
yeah,
assume Ohio State's going to win. They're the number one team in
hmm
the country. I'll be fair.
yeah,
You assume they're going to beat whoever, right?
hmm
The rest of them comes down to a matchup, right?
yeah.
So there are worlds where I can match Oregon up with an SEC team that they can beat. I can match Indiana up with an SEC team that they can beat
Now, now,
right now.
yeah, now,
Once we
yeah,
get past that, who's the fourth best team in the Big Ten? Michigan?
yeah. So yeah, because you said Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, and now it's a toss up between Michigan, um, Penn
Exactly.
State. Penn State's underachieving. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you start getting
Yeah.
below that,
Yeah. No, you're right. You're
they
right.
probably can't match up. So I'm saying that to say, and I'll get to when we talk about the schedule for this week. Like when you will have weeks, like this week is a perfect example. You're invested personally in the Kansas game.
Mm-hmm.
That's why
100%.
you're watching the Kansas game. That's why I will watch the Kansas game to know if I need to do a wellness check on you or not. Like that's why I'm gonna watch. But when you look at it, this is an all SEC weekend. There's not one. The most compelling Big Ten matchup is Michigan versus an unranked Michigan State. And the only reason that's compelling is because that is a true rivalry where Michigan State is always going to hold up their end of the game and make it a fun and competitive game. But
And you're right. It is the SEC.
you're going to watch four different SEC games this weekend because we all probably believe or can see that the outcome of those games is going to shape the national title picture.
Yeah. It's a big chunk of it. It's a
Does
big chunk of it.
BYU
Yeah.
and Iowa State fit into that
Well,
category?
well, well. BYU's
No.
number 11 right now. If they continue to win, they'll be in the top 10. Is what
But
I'm
do we
saying.
but do we believe
Mm.
do we believe that BYU has a legitimate chance at the national title? Not even saying the
Yeah.
question is not do they, right? Not do they, because that remains to be seen, and you got to play the game to
Yeah.
know the answer to that.
Traditionally and historically, no, because they
But
were not.
even what they
Yeah.
see on the field,
Yeah.
Boa,
Yeah.
when you see
Yeah.
a team, you're like, they're good in this matchup, but we go play some other guys. We talked about last week. We talked about Texas Tech. We talked about their defensive line.
Mhm.
Against most people, look all world.
But
What they have? How many sacks they have against ASU? 2, I think.
I don't know. I don't give me the
I
lie.
think they had a couple tackle for loss, but
Yeah.
saying that to say is that you have guys that are doing things that can be neutralized. You don't
I know,
have
but but they're still grading out as the best defensive line in the nation
all for
as
it.
a unit. You know what I'm
All
saying?
for
Yeah.
it. When again, we're going to go back to the bias and to the level of competition. If they look that way because of who they play, does that translate? And I will say, my wholehearted opinion, watching ASU neutralize them.
Yeah.
What do you think an SEC team, not only with the dogs, because I do believe this is a have not world.
Mm-hmm.
You can, if you don't got the dogs, it don't matter. But not
Mm-hmm.
only in the most SEC programs do you have the dogs, you all have some of the top coaches in America. So
Yeah.
not only would I be able to get a hold of a David Bailey just one-on-one, and I could just put one guy on him and not have to really worry about this guy wrecking the game, even if that I'm good enough to where I can scheme up something and go and play around him. So that's
Yeah.
where I think, because I have the dogs, because I can throw it to somebody out of the backfield, because I can run drag routes and all kind of other stuff that's going to get the ball out of my hands really fast. So I think that's the difference. And not every team in the Big 12 can do that because
But
they don't
I'm gonna put my shield on, my Big 12 shield, because you talk about ASU and Texas Tech, who's playing well this year. ASU, I guess, has underachieved just a smidge, but it's also ASU team that was in how many plays from beating Texas last
hey,
year?
Absolutely.
But so I mean, I say
But
that to
what
say,
did
yeah,
it come down
it's
to?
and I will say it is, but it's not as big as you want to
Also,
say.
you
Yeah,
have also, and I think it is important to note. Not there are no excuses in this world, but I do think it's important to note that you had one for sure lottery Sunday guy in Scatterboo. Levitt, I believe, will make a roster. Will he ever play? Will he ever have a material impact on the outcome of the NFL game? I'm not going to say that, but will he make a roster? I believe that. Is Dillingham one of the brightest young coaches in America? Absolutely. So I think when you have a game like that, and I also think, and I said it at the time, I don't think Texas had the requisite respect for ASU coming in the game because ain't nobody ran on Texas last year. So I think that hurt how Texas performed because they say, "Oh, we not worried about that little dude," because ain't nobody. The big guys hadn't done it, so ain't nobody worried about the little dude. And I think that's an anomaly, and that was a little bit of an outlier, but the result matters. And what did it come down to? The
a
dog.
bad play call. Sorry, I hate to criticize coaches. They let y'all off the hook with that play
Hey,
call.
we did it, but that's cyclical. We were owed that. We let
But
LSU in 2019 off the hook. Zero blitz and Joe Burrow. That was stupid.
wait, wasn't
Which
nobody gonna beat LSU in 2019? I saw that with my
that
own
was
eyes.
that game was a whoever had the ball last, and we had them on what
They
was 3rd and 19, I believe.
they beat y'all in the pregame when they was drinking y'all water. When they was coming to y'all sideline drinking y'all water. bully. Well,
What's next?
we're not gonna go into that. And before I do, so that's what we're mad about. That's a great take on it. I do agree about the the bottom half and this and that performance wise and just the way things have been. I'm an older guy. I would like to say, and this is gonna taste like coming out my mouth, but if we pull back the A&Ms, the Missouri, and even Texas, like if you're talking about the core of like my Big 12,
You pull back Oklahoma, yeah.
and so
It
like
changes the
it's a
game.
different in 100%.
But I think that's what, and I think people we
that's not
corners.
that's not today's SEC, and I
We get in
realize
our corners, and we don't want to give credit where it's due.
Yeah.
And I think that's the requisite. That's kind of a prerequisite of what has to happen is you have to give credit where it's due. For the longest on the national stage, Texas and Oklahoma carried the Big 12, not only in performance, but in credibility, so that then when other teams would beat Oklahoma or beat Texas, it elevated the league because people had that kind of foundational respect for Texas, for Oklahoma. So then it elevated the league. Now that you don't have that team that has gained national respect, and whoever makes it to the playoffs, whether it be Tech or ASU or whatever, now you run the risk because Tech lost. Now you run the risk of probably the Big 12 champion. Depends on how it shakes out. If it's BYU and they win out, they will. But if BYU goes to Lubbock, which is kind of what I have my eye on, they go to Lubbock and probably lose, maybe. You kind of entered into that cannibalism world. So now you're looking at a world where the Big 12 champion probably doesn't even get a home game. Or if they do, it's right at that 7-8 matchup. So they're going to have a damn good number 8 team coming to Lubbock or wherever they got to go. And if they lose that game, the Big 12 never gets a chance to get back to that point where they can build some foundational respect on the national stage, which I think is just so important.
Yeah, and I'll say give us our teams back, and then we'll talk about it. But that's a fantasy world. But no, you're exactly right. And like I say, 20 years ago, Texas won it as a Big 12 team, and then 25 years ago, Oklahoma won it as a Big 12 team. So it's been somewhat of a significant drought. It has been a significant drought. Yeah. So, but
Texas made it to the playoff as a Big 12 team.
Yeah. So and it's gonna roll, and we're jumping the gun too. Yeah. Anyway, well, I jumped the gun. I don't like harping on it, but we kind of skipped over the coaches carousel because 2 more coaches were relieved of their duties this past week. Jay Norvell and Coach Billy Napier. there's I don't really get into the vulture talk. I call vulture talk is when these coaches or these fans start talking. You sent me a funny video today, which I watched about, what fans think should get fired. But like I every place is different. I get it. Everybody still talks about, Coach Franklin and how he was let go too early, too soon, what have you. But, the Coach Norvell at Florida State issue, where, someone mentioned that, you go off and you beat up on Alabama, and then now you haven't won, you don't have a significant win. And I think they've won one conference game in 2 years, and so I don't know, and I'm not sitting here to say, oh, he should be fired. Hell no, I don't put my ear all the way to the ground about it, but just some of the outer lining stuff I heard, that they said he's not going to get relieved, and that's kind of sucks too. They're going to relieve him at the end of the year, so now it's almost in the same situation of like when you coach a team and you're out of playoff contention or bowl contention. What are you playing for? Not like, what is he coaching for? Like the next job is he coaching for? Now in this portal world, now you're just trying to get filmed to go to the next place. It's so impersonal now, man.
I think it's a little bit of both.
It's so impersonal just about the way it is. And then I saw Coach Hugh Freeze was talking about, I wish the AD would publicly give me support. I don't know how true that report is, but I that's kind of crazy to say that.
That's frailness. That's thin-skinnedness that I don't really appreciate from coaches. Again, we talked about the human element, and like I said, I hate it when it affects people's families and assistant coaches that don't have near as much of a golden parachute and all these other things. So I'm with it on that. What I don't think I have a whole lot of tolerance for is a multimillionaire with thin skin. Like that is the job. That is in the job description, that when things get tough, and I think SARK is seeing it, when things get tough, the questions get harder. The attaboys and the pats on the back come farther and fewer in between. That is what you signed up for. Did you sign up for somebody to cuss at your 12-year-old child? No. But did you sign up for things to be tough when you're not performing? Absolutely. So I say that to say, I think I don't really, as a degenerate gambler myself, I think Coach, if I'm Norvell or James Franklin, which would I rather be? Put me out of my misery and put me out to pasture, or let me go to the end of the season? I'm a degenerate gambler. Give me till the end of the season. Because one, I can either turn this thing around and make it super duper hard, because I still got to play Florida. I still got some compelling games. So one, just the competitive spirit in me, can I turn this thing around? Can I, like you said, put myself on a foot? I think Florida did Billy Napier a favor by taking him out on a win. I do. I really do, because now he kind of is in a win-win. If Florida goes on a run with the interim coach, that starts to creep in your mind that, okay, Billy might have figured something out and they were going to go on a roll again. So somebody else is more likely to give him a shot. Or two, if they crumble, hey, that wasn't even me, man. I don't know what they got going on over there. So I think it is impersonal, but I think, again, when you're moving toward college football as a whole being the NFL G League, and the NFL is very impersonal. Of
course.
Unless you coaching for the Colts or the Cowboys, right? You don't spend a whole lot of time with the owners. You don't build these relationships outside of those men in that locker room and those people in that facility, and that's it. So I think I'm okay with that because of where the sport is going, because of the money that's involved. I think I'm okay with it being impersonal, and maybe that I think it'll take a little bit, the part that I do hate, I think it'll take a little bit of the personalities out of the game. So maybe Lane Kiffin isn't Lane Kiffin anymore. Maybe. So it'll take a little bit of that out of the game, but it'll also get rid of some of the frailty and the sensitivity.
Yeah. And it was more to the fact of like, you're announcing that's what's going to happen. Maybe let me know behind closed doors, it's not be a public thing, because and anything now is under scrutiny. Oh, he's tanking it. He wants to destroy the program because he knew he was gonna get fired. Like
I
you
could do
said,
that anyway. Even if you put me
yeah,
out of my misery today, I could go on national TV and say
yeah,
uber duper disgusting things
yeah.
about you and burn the whole place down if I wanted to. But I think it will let people have an opportunity, a la James Franklin, to show their professionalism. Hey, it happened. It wasn't fathomable. I didn't even consider it, but I'm ready to go coach. I'm ready to go win a national title somewhere else.
Somewhere else,
And
yeah.
I guarantee you he gets a shot. Ed
Class
Orgeron,
act,
he's saying the
class
right
act.
thing.
Yeah,
He's
class
going to
act.
get another shot.
Yeah, but you're talking about, like Coach Saban said, you're talking about a Fiesta Bowl, a Rose Bowl, college playoff guy. You know, Ed Orgeron. You're talking about a guy that took a team that nobody they wanted, but a national championship, and who put together arguably one of the best college football teams of all time. And I am not an LSU guy, but golly, that
I
roster
saw him in
from,
person. I agree.
yeah. So yeah. So, and that's my guy. And I had a chance to coach his two twin sons, great kids who they're coaching at Miami right now. So I mean, just it's good things come to good people, man. This outside world doesn't know all the ins and outs of it. But nevertheless, I digress. Let's talk. Let's get a somewhat brighter. But I mean, for the second week in a row, let's
survive.
Let's let you have it. Hey. Now, I was gonna put the broken version of Titanic. I was gonna drag this out because even though you got the win, it was a little ugly.
Hey.
But tell me about it. Let's go
it
back
was
to Lexington.
ugly. It was ugly. I was fresh. I was talking to you most throughout the whole game. I think I have a really good pulse on this team and knowing kind of when they have it and when they don't. And it's a couple of things I look for early in the game. Are we in the right call? Number one, is there even a chance for success? I thought early on, not so much. I thought we got better. But and then when we're in the right call, are we executing? Are we making the right reads? Are we making the short throws? I watched Arch miss Jack Endries. I watched him miss Ryan Wingo. I watched he had 3 throws that I would say killed the drive, right? It was third and short. He couldn't get home. He couldn't get to where he couldn't get to. A lot of those other drives, the offensive line just killed him. And there's a chart out there. I'll have to send it. So hopefully you can put it up. Is looking at the performance of Arch and the performance of the offensive line. It's literally below the line, way above the line, way below the line, way above the line.
Wow.
So we should be by that measure, we should be way above the line this coming up week. But again, I thought we didn't do well. Nick Brooks, not to pick on the kid because he had an awful game. Then he rebounded in the Red River Shootout with a great game. Then he, this is the problem with youth. And followed it up with a terrible game. I think he had a 14. I think Pro Football Focus graded him out at like a 14 or something like that. It was bad. It was really bad. We had some injuries. Cole Hudson was out. That's a start. That's your starting center out. Connor Stroh, who's Nick Brooks's backup at guard, he was out. So you don't even really get a chance. And I think as a coach, you probably hate that. I know I hated basketball when a player's not performing and I can't even sub you out, So I think that was
I'm stuck.
I'm stuck with it. So I think that's a little bit of what they dealt with. But at the end of the day, in the SEC, in any power conference, on the road at night, you just got to get out of there. You got to get out there and win. And I think the reason the bias bothered me so much is I'm starting to look down the road and the what ifs scenarios. Texas legitimately, depending on what Vanderbilt does this weekend, Texas legitimately will have 3 top 10 games left on their schedule. Vanderbilt will be top 10 when they come in on November the 1st. They got a bye week. They got to go on the road to what will be a top 10 Georgia team. Come home against a renewed Arkansas team that will have won a couple of games between now and then. Then you're going to end your season with what could be a top 3 Texas A&M team. I look at that to say, if we're not making any movement in the polls, and it's all going to come out to, and we've seen some surprises when the CFP rankings come in, but if Texas isn't able to string together some big wins and really get a push, you got to be in win out territory, and I don't love that. Especially having to go to Georgia. They just don't, that's a tough place to go and win a football game.
Yeah.
So I don't love that. So that's why that bias kind of bothered me, because I'm like, now you're negatively impacting these kids where you could lock out one of the 12 better teams in the country. If you win out, you're gonna be there. I'm not even think about that, because you'll get to Atlanta, and the loser in Atlanta, I don't care what their record is, the loser in Atlanta is in the playoff. So not to look too far ahead, because there's so much work to do. But I thought Kentucky had a great game plan. I thought, I'm doing the weave, familiar. I thought Kentucky had a really great game plan. I think Mark Stoops is a heck of a coach. They always play well on the defensive line. We didn't get any push. We didn't really get to do much in the run game. And that's always going to make it hard. If Texas can't run the ball, SARK's offense in general will struggle if Texas can't run the ball. It's predicated on play action. It's predicated on the RPO. So if the run game is non-existent, those things aren't there. So it hurts us. So it hurt in that game. I think Mississippi State is an opportunity where they're not as stout up front. They are tied with Texas, leading the SEC in takeaways. So that does make me a little nervous. Can we make sure that we don't put the ball in harm's way? Can we make sure that we do the things that we need to do? But I think hopefully getting some push up front, getting to do a couple of things that will bring us back and make us a little more grounded, I think we'll be in good shape this week.
I tell you what, in that overtime, that running back, I don't know what the hell he was thinking. I don't know what he thought he was, or what his.
I'll tell you what, Mark Stoops, and I think he's going to be. I think he's going to get fired at the end of the year, and he probably should. That was coaching malpractice. I don't care what nobody says. You can tell me, oh, that means he doesn't believe in his team or whatever. Texas has, what is it, 3 points?
Yeah.
Texas only has 3 points if you take out the two big special teams plays. I'm a realist. I know my team.
That was the guy named Niblet. That dude, he's come up big the last 3 weeks for y'all, man.
Take away his two big returns.
I got to see it.
One set up a touchdown. Yeah, one set up a touchdown. One set up a field goal. If you take those two plays out of the game, Texas is sitting on 3 points.
Dude.
So for Mark Stoops to not, and you get too cute. I'm looking at this like in overtime, you getting too cute by half. So not taking those points, you essentially gifted the game to Texas, because you have a kicker who can kick 53 out the gate.
This guy takes up. Oh my God.
And I'm not going to let us off the hook either, because Mark Stoops gives us the game, and here comes Sark holding my beer, and then we playing tug of war trying to give it back.
You text me, you text me.
And that's what kind of frustrates me about. I hate when I see people try to reinvent the wheel. I love our creativity. I love the things that Sark has proven that he can do well. But if you got a guy, that can kick 53 out the gate, take that 40-yard field goal and get home. Take that 40-yard field goal and get on the bus and go. Yeah. Because you do all these things, you get a holding penalty, which we have shown a high propensity to do. So you can't say, oh, I didn't expect it. Why didn't you? You should have, right? Because that's just one of the things we've done. Then you call a bad play call that loses yards. Then you get some of them back. Then you end up kicking a longer field goal than it would have been if you just did it from scrimmage. In the NFL, in that scenario, they kick that ball.
Yeah.
They kick that ball. Period.
Yeah, you kind of have a dummy play to move the hash or move to where you want to go.
You need to do. You move the hash, and that is absolutely it. Yeah. We got guys not getting out of bounds. 3-4 year guys that know better, which is why we went to overtime in the first place. So knowing all that, I think that's what frustrated me so much about the end of the game is, me, I'm a big believer in football karma and the football gods, and when you get. Well, I told you when we got fumbles and that we can't jump on top
not
of.
Getting the bounces. Not getting the
interceptions, stuff like that. The game already ain't going your way.
Yeah.
Get the dub and get your ass out of here. And I think that we didn't do that. And we tried our best.
And I think, like I say, it's the now. I think that'll be in the rear view and it won't really matter. But I understand now because we're realists and we're looking at it right now and I don't like the way my team's playing. I don't like what's going on, but they'll get it figured out. And that's what's so hard, because I'm about to ask you another question what's kind of been floating in the air. But, it's like, and just like anything else, I don't care what it looks like. If it's working and you're winning, nobody ain't got nothing to say about it. Then you start, I've seen at least 5 teams this year run the tornado reverse SARK, play that he ran, whatever they said they call it, Skittles, that he ran against Florida last year. I've seen so many teams run it. So like, it's like, when it's good, it's good. So that leads me onto like, there's been small rumblings about Coach Sark and the play calling duties and what he should do with that. And I'm going to put a clip on here. They interviewed Coach Mac Brown, the GOAT, and he kind of gave his take on it, because he talked about when he was the Texas play caller and all the stuff that came with it. So I'm going to put that up real quick.
It's not media's choice. It's not fans' choice. It's not anybody's choice. It's his choice. And he loves it, and he's very good at it. The play calls just took Texas to a game away from the national championship 2 years in a row. I was the play caller. I was the head coach and the play caller. He says, you call plays still, don't you? And I said, yes, sir, I do. And he said, boy, you'll quit doing that when you get a little bit older. And I said, why, Coach? I love calling plays. It's other than the relationships, I love calling plays more than anything else. It challenged me. It was fun. You got to beat the other guys like a chess match. And it's a wonderful thing for your mind. He sat there and said, well, you're going to get too old. You're going to get too tired. And you're going to get too busy as a head coach. I used to call them. And he said, nah, I quit. And he said, all I do is bitch at the guys call them because I know how to call them. So for Steve to change, number one, he has to feel like he's had enough and he's too busy with all this. This is a big monster. It's a huge deal to do all this. The second thing he's got to do is find somebody else that's as good as he is. And that's really, really hard to do. And then the third thing he's got to do, when you bring a guy in, you've got to let him do it. And that was really hard. It's hard for me when you hear him call a play on 3rd and 5 and you're thinking, Jesus Christ, that's awful. I wouldn't call that play. Well, you can't stop him because you got 15 seconds left and it's already to the quarterback, and you've sat in the meetings and you have the plans, but you got to let the guy do it if he's going to do it. So just to change is easy to say. It's hard to do.
What is your take, or what is your feel on how the play calling or how the offense has performed because of play calling, or are they a good enough offense, or is Texas calling what they want to call it, or are they calling stuff to put the offense in the best position
to
be successful?
I'll answer what I think your question is without obfuscating, and then I'll give the caveats. I think your question is like, what is my thought? Should he give up play calling or not? Yes. That's my thought. Here is why. When you are the head coach of a program like that, let me first start with saying, I'm a numbers guy. And I think the truth, if you look at something over enough time, the truth is in those numbers. There's only one coach who's ever won a national title being the primary play caller on offense or defense. That's Jimbo Fisher's FSU team. So I think just depending on how your mind works, I think it's the best situation for Sark, but I'm not going to lie and say from an outsider looking in, do I wish it was different? Because I think you get too close. I've seen him in the past get too close to quarterbacks, having been a former quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
My mind always goes back to Quinn Ewers playing at Oklahoma State we're in 25, 24, 23, 22. Quinn Ewers, I believe, played on the road at Oklahoma State, and he was terrible. He was awful. Probably the worst performance of his college career.
Mm-hmm.
He was awful. He couldn't hit you in the face with the ball from 5 yards away. But Sark, having been a quarterback, having undoubtedly had those kinds of days where he was able to play himself through or what have you, you give
that matters.
a
Yes,
lot
that
more
matters.
credence to those things rather than just looking at stuff stone cold emotionless and saying it is the best for this team, a la Nick Saban subbing out Tua, subbing out Jalen Hurts. Like, this is what's best for this team in this moment.
Yeah.
Lincoln Riley. So, and so a guy like Lincoln Riley, right? If he ever finds a good DC that don't need him, look out, because he has it, right? Where, because you watch him say, all right, Spencer, you ain't getting it done. Caleb Williams, come on. That was against us. I saw it. So I think it depends. It's ebbs and flows, but I do think that stat mattered a whole lot to me when I saw that of all the teams that won a national title. Only one was a primary play caller.
And one big win to change all that, it'll quiet that noise. I still think he's one of the best offensive minds, out there, So it's not like
everybody is when it's working.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But so this is going to be a chance for coach to show this. We sputtered, he found a way. You know what I'm saying? Because the first thing people want to say is give it up, but like you got to fight through those tough moments.
Now, mind you, this has been brewing now.
Yeah, but it begins and ends with the quarterback and learning that position, man. And it's
offensive line is most important.
Yeah, that too. But but growing pains. I mean, if you got a guy back there that's protecting, you got a good old line. He's still throwing ducks and throwing interceptions. I mean, I'm a running back, and I'll just hand it to the running back. But I've learned over my years, the quarterback, oh my God, you got a chance. You got a chance with
a mid-level quarterback.
You got a chance.
A mid-level quarterback can do great things behind a great offensive line.
Yeah.
A great quarterback can't do shit with a mid-level offensive line. Can't.
Yeah. I agree. Just like a running back can't be great without his O-line. I mean, I don't care who you are. Besides Barry Sanders.
Bijan Robinson. I say that to say his offensive line, his first two offensive lines were not that great. He just had a knack for making the first guy miss and not really taking a lot of losses, right? That's an invaluable trait of being able to always, no matter where you are, in a phone booth, on the edge, whatever, always being able to make that first guy miss.
I can relate.
Probably. That's what made you great.
Probably.
That's what made you great.
Man, roll the film. But okay. So we've beaten a dead horse. Y'all won. We're talking about like
Texas. I'm happy.
Lost.
You're not happy.
Me
think I'm not happy. I'm happy.
I'll never manipulate anybody. I don't. Hey, tell me about going to Stark Vegas. Tell me how you feel about going to Stark Vegas.
Nervous. You can't replicate. One, because we are not the team of the last 2 years where you can just set your watch to the certain things that are going to happen. We're going to run the ball. We're going to stop the run. We're going to make the checkdowns. Last 2 years, you could set your watch by those two things. Other things would come up from game to game, but those three things remained constant. This year, we don't have two of those three things. Going on the road is quite scary. It's a very loud place. And I get nervous when you go somewhere and you have things that you can't replicate, right? Going out to the West Coast or going to teams that play at a high altitude, stuff like you can't replicate that kind of stuff. Yeah. You can't replicate them cowbells. You can't replicate that kind of deafening noise in your ear. So they are coming in with I'm certain, a high degree of confidence and thinking they're going to win. So when you don't have any of those things at your back, there were times in the last 2 years where Texas won a game before they got on the field. Right? Pre-Diego Pavia, you go to Vanderbilt, you won that game before you got on the field. So when those two things, none of those things are at your back, you're going to have to go earn it and go take it. Do I believe that we will? Yes. Do I believe that we'll cover what I believe is 6.5 or 7.5? Yes. Will it be easy? Am I going to predict a mow down? Absolutely not. I think it's going to be a fight. I think our defense will probably face a little adversity. Jeff Lebby, they quick gamed us a lot last year. They had a lot of stuff wide open over the middle. I don't know what we had seen. Texas has a habit, and I don't know why, but Texas opponents have a habit of doing things in the game against us that they have not put on film prior to. But I think for most teams that aren't Alabama, that aren't Georgia, that aren't, beating Texas means a whole lot
more. Yeah, it means more. Yeah,
so certain things you maybe keep in the bag or install week of, because this one matters more than those others. So we'll see some things that I think, because last year I remember like we were playing on the edge a whole lot. It's like we expected them to play on the outside a whole lot more than they actually did, and they attacked the middle of the field early and often. So I expect them to do a lot of that stuff and have some familiarity. They got a great quarterback, Jeff Lebby, for all his personal flaws. uh, is a great offensive mind. So I think they'll be ready. I think they'll be prepared. I think they will believe that they have an opportunity to win, which will carry over into how they play. Can we come out early, put this game away, and let them in the crowd know this ain't that today? This ain't that kind of day.
Yeah.
I think we'll do our
Not here. Not
not,
here.
not up in here. Can we run the ball? And I think being able to run the ball will go a very long way in determining the outcome of the game. One, it keeps their high-powered offense off the field. Two, it helps us not put the ball in danger of being taken away. Three, time of possession. SARK is so big on complementary football. And I will die on this hill that long sustained drives that end in points, any points, matter more than those explosive drives that end in touchdowns.
Well, we'll see.
I hope so.
What time is that? Is that a night game?
No,
or?
I believe it's a midday kick.
Okay, y'all got that fancy audio system. Y'all can simulate those cowbells.
You can't simulate the vibrate. I said that when we were going to Florida,
Well,
right? You just can't. You can pump crowd noise till you're blue in the face, and it will simulate the fact that I can't hear the play call, or maybe it's a little loud. It doesn't simulate you know, if I'm playing sound and I do this, okay, I don't feel the vibrations. I don't do it's not a distraction anymore if I do this. If they in that stadium, they stomping and hollering, making noise, it's doing something chemically to your body, you know, that you can't simulate.
Oh yeah, and I won't say how many years ago, but we were getting ready to go on the road to Norman to play the eventual national champion, and we cranked it up, and we had to learn how to. This is before the comm in the quarterback's helmet type stuff, so we had to figure it out. And I mean, it rumbled the stadium, and obviously, Oklahoma's Memorial Stadium was bigger than Kansas Memorial Stadium, but you do what you can, what you got to do. So that
I got a question since you brought up the comms real quick. We won't go down a whole rabbit hole in this, but I am curious. Lane Kiffin accused essentially Brent Venables of stealing signs.
Yeah.
In today's world of comms and being in the quarterback's ear, so this may have to take you back to your time in the NFL. If I'm directly in the quarterback's ear, how are opposing teams still stealing signals? I don't get it.
Because it could be system. It could be system related, because the coach could tell the quarterback something, and the quarterback may signal, because if you're in a high pace or a tempo offense, sometimes the receivers are not in the huddle. So it's just a sugar huddle with the quarterback and the O-line, tight end backs maybe. But a lot of times the signals may be for the slot or the wide receivers. So that is my initial answer to that. If there's a check and the quarterback does something, there's somebody watching, charting, hey, when he does this, we do that. I mean, even at the levels of high school, there were certain things. I was a signaler at the last high school I coached at, and it got to a point where I was kind of easy to spot. So what do? We started getting dummy guys, So there's ways you can do it. My mentor, Paul Walden, who taught me everything about the spread offense, to at least be a to sound like a sensible coach, would tell me, he said, if they can get your signal, flip it around, and then relay it to their team, hell, they deserve to stop us. So, it's like, you're going through all that. Is that an excuse? Because, okay, the signal. So now you still got to execute.
But I think the way he said it, so now hearing your explanation with the way he said it, because I think he relayed a specific example. So if I know that your slot guy is about to come on a slant, and all I got to holler in your ear is slot, slant. Yeah. And he said, because he said, you got a safety coming down to steal the slant. He said, which is wildly abnormal. He said he was telling Hugh Freeze, the only explanation is that they had your play. So I guess I think that's helpful for people to know, because I thought that most people think that it has gotten signal stealing out of the game completely.
Yeah. Oh, not at all.
When it sounds like it's just, but I will say, not to pick sides, but I will say, if you look at the Texas-Oklahoma game in the second half, where Texas dominated time of possession, had long sustained drives, only difference between that and the first half, Texas huddled.
And I was about to say, then you can't steal it. You took the words right out of my mouth. So like I say, it's system related. It's, it depends on what the system is, on how you do things. Because I'm going to tell you, when those comms came into play, how many, 2 years ago, whatever. Nobody's going to scrap what they do communication wise. And if anything, it's an added bonus to say, hey, be on the lookout for this. Because even like you said, if that safety comes down and robs that slant, okay, what's your read? It doesn't matter whatever the hell they do. It's about what we're going to do. And even in practice and preparation, you put your offense, because that's the example we're using, you put your offense in a no-win situation sometimes to see how they can handle it or to see what the quarterback's going to read. If, okay, this guy's taking away this slant, what's your progression? What's the next thing you do? I can see being on that side, like if something doesn't go right, you be like, and they stole a signal, I'll be pissed off about it too. But listening to Coach, thinking back to Coach Walden all those years ago, you're right, they deserve it. Because if my quarterback can't figure out the hell, this safety is kind of creeping, cheating, and robbing the slant, I need to go somewhere else. So
I'm excited about that game because now that Lane has put that out there,
yeah,
I'm assuming they're going to have all brand new signals this week.
But see
they'll
that
and that's a lot more.
And that's another thing. I think it'd be
you
a little more subtle.
You got to go get it now. You got to go do something.
I think it'd be a little more subtle. I think it'd be just because that's hard to get. You get.
But
into world.
I'm saying from I love the pageantry of it because I've put this out here.
Yeah.
So obviously Oklahoma's going to.
But Lane like that. He like to stir stuff up.
I know, but I'm saying, but it's out there now, right?
Yeah,
so it's like, okay, you've put it out there. So now at the end of the game, this will come up.
Oh, you're right. It does make for a story outside of the game, But let's transition to a little more sophisticated, acting coaches and rivalry. Saturday, October 25th, Kansas Memorial Stadium, the 123rd Sunflower Showdown, Kansas versus Kansas State, 4-3 Kansas versus 3-4 Kansas State. Now, Kansas still leads this rivalry overall, 65, 52, and 5 ties. Kansas State has made a significant dent in coming back in that. Okay. It is what it is. It's a rival. Kansas State's had a lot of success, but we're talking about right now, today, this year, this game. So Kansas is ESPN has 2.5-point favorite. I think another one has a 3.5-point favorite. I don't care. I just want to win the game. Saturday, a high of 63 degrees. So that means it's Midwest weather, baby. It's Midwest weather. My 4 years of playing those guys, which I will humbly say that we were 0-4 against Kansas State. I mean, I think 3 out of the 4 years we played them, they were ranked in the top 5, not the top 10. But there's also a 16-game losing streak on the line. Kansas hasn't won this game since 2008. If I think back, the last 2 years, it was a pretty close game. But even last year, like late in the game in Manhattan, Kansas had a chance to win it. We're up, and as you see right here, it's 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And what was our MO last year? Not being able to finish games and turning the ball over late in the game. So we get a stop. 3.5 minutes left. We're up by 1. And what do? We do the unthinkable, or not the unthinkable, but what's happened? We turn the ball over. Kansas State goes down, marches down, kicks a field goal with like 1 minute and 47 seconds left, wins the game. And so it burns me up to still watch this and think about it. And it's one of those things where you got to get over the hump. You always talk about rival games, and you said it's not a rival if this team dominates it all the time. I will agree, but watching Coach Leipold's
the hammer can't have a rivalry with a nail.
Exactly. But Coach Leipold made a great point, or he at least attested to what you mentioned. Even last year we've done this podcast, but he said he spoke to what a rival is. It needs to be competitive, and he said he thinks since they've gotten there, they've done a good job of doing that, of making this game competitive again. And I will agree, because he said, if it's not competitive, then it's a rival just because of proximity, just how close they are, So, I mean, he talks about those things, and it's funny because you still got to coach the game. It's a conference game. It's a rival, but it'd be nice to get a win in that brand new, or should I say renovated stadium in Memorial Stadium. But David Booth. But this is the deal right here. Coach talked about what needs to happen. This is what needs to happen. We need to shore up on pass protection. We need to be better in the red zone. On defense, we need to maintain our gap integrity because Tech exposed us in so many ways. What they scored on the very first play, right up the middle, with the not the, I want to say Mackey, not the Mac, Dickey. Dickey, that's last, yeah, Dickey, the Crockett kid. So I mean that, and you just got to do a better job communicating defensively. I I think that Coach DK McDonald has done a great job. It's his first year, calling for the defense, but they're getting better. So this has been the first time that in a long time that Kansas had a better record, and they've been a favorite. And you start putting all these things together. I'll say this. So statistically, numbers don't lie. Kansas is better than Kansas State in every statistic. Points per game, first downs, rushing yards, passing yards, total offense, touchdowns, field goals, time of possession. Kansas is better than K-State in all of those categories. So being a Kansas guy and knowing what these beat downs have been like, or being so close and then you still don't get it, I still had that little sick feeling in my stomach, because it's like, which game is it going to be? How is it going to be to get over that hump? Coach Kleiman talked about it, and he really downplayed it. They tried to really get him to talk about the rivalry and stuff, and he said it's just the next game. I don't know if that's a shot at, like, they're not worried about Kansas, or it's just, the coach being a coach and say it's the next game. You're not getting caught up in all that. He said that rivalry stuff is good for the players, it's good for the alum, is good for the fan base and the state. But besides that, it's a game they got to go out and take care of business with, and so I love Coach Kleiman. I need to probably find a picture. I need to put it up on here when he was a coach at Kansas, because that's the Coach Kleiman I know. But I mean, he's done a great job there. But the way everything's lining up, man, I think even for the first time, even media wise, and just the feel that this is one of the better chances that KU has had to beat Kansas State. Like I said, we talked about Missouri weeks ago, and I tell you, we were 3-1 against Missouri. We only lost one time, and then we played Kansas State, and I mean, they whipped our tail. I mean, the only silver lining I can think of about those rivalries is that I scored my first collegiate touchdown in Manhattan against Kansas State, against a good Kansas State team with Michael Bishop and Darren Howard at D-line and Jared Cooper at safety. I mean, those, it just, I have to, take it the way it is. We never beat them. So, it is what it is. But what I'm about to do right now is I really want to get into, the coaching points and some film study on like what I've seen from Kansas State over the last couple of games right now, and really detail some things that Kansas can do to be successful. And I really feel that
before we do that, because I had a question when you rattled off all those stats. In your mind, does that make this week a must-win game? Not for any other reason other than we are definitively the better team, and
you should win based off
does it push it into kind of like a must-win category?
It's funny enough, I was watching a podcast, and these two guys are K-State and Kansas guys, and they kind of asked the question along the lines of, and I'll take it a step further before I answer that question. They say, well, if Coach Leipold doesn't get the win, does that put him on the hot seat? Because it's never done. And then the same thing to be said that, Coach Kleiman has struggled, and the expectation, in Manhattan is this, we expect this. They've only won 3 games. If Kansas beats, K-State, does that put him on the hot seat? And both answers were no, and I agree. But yes, I do think this is a must-win, because, like you say, this is, like I said, this is set up. We're at home. We're better record. We've performed better, obviously numbers wise. We should, yes. It's a must-win anyway, in my opinion, because we've already let one conference game slip away in Cincinnati that we probably should have won. Well, Cincinnati is rolling right now, but it's a rival, and you kind of throw all those things out of the window. But at the same time, like you say, haves and haves not. And so I don't know, man. I do, to answer your question, yes, it's a must-win. I think some of my hesitation is because of my experience with K-State and this 16-game losing streak that K-State has over Kansas. I think that's a mental edge that they have. Lost by 2 last year, lost by 3 or 4 the year before. So that's the closest we've come. Yes, 2008. Yeah. So that's why I hesitate, but I still think 34-25 Kansas.
Double digits.
34-25.
Oh, that's 9. Sorry.
Yeah.
I got you.
Because, I'm going to show in a whole minute what we can do. Not to say that they're calling me and asking me what we should do. This is just what I've seen with my eye and the film. I'm just a guy. But check this out real quick. Okay, we gave a quick overview of some numbers, stats of K-State's offense, defense. Now we're going to look at some film, talk about some keys to victory for Kansas against K-State. We're going to highlight some of Kansas State's strengths because they do have them, but we're also going to talk about some things that Kansas can do to beat K-State. So let's go to the film real quick. Okay, so let's first talk about the Kansas offense. Okay, so what I think the Kansas offense has to do to be successful is do what they've been doing. I've talked on this podcast a lot about protecting the football, running the football, and just doing what we do. And I think Kansas needs to continue to do that, get back on track. After a tough loss against a very good Texas Tech football team. But I think we're going to need to continue to use our pre-snap movements, trading tight ends, motions, jet motions, orbit motions, whatever you have to do to make that defense just think that much more. So first game of the season right here against Fresno State. Just some zone read right now with the tight end bluffing, going to the second level. Jalen does a good job sticking his foot, second, third level. It's a big game right there. So I think we definitely need to run him. I don't get every health report. I don't know how healthy he is, but he seems to be healthy. So I'm big on protecting the quarterback, but also know when this kid has the ability to not only be effective as a passer, but also as a runner, that we need to utilize that. Right here, this is what I call a slip play right here. Play action. Boom, off the backside back, thrown behind the line of scrimmage so guys are able to go block right now. Ends up being a touchdown for us. So I think that's an effective play. This is game 1, but Kansas also hit this play against Missouri as well to score a touchdown. So it's effective in that green zone that, 45, I'll just say 45 on in. It's a very effective play. Right here, this is against Cincinnati. We've got jet motion with LeSean right here with the running back. But we've also got a power scheme. We've got the guard pulling, but he's kicking out because he knows it's going to be a pass, so he doesn't get upfield. And we got the tight end that's giving that lead block bluff. Boom, avoids. Touchdown. So I think that's another wrinkle or a staple, if you will, in our offense that's been very effective for us in the previous years and this year as well. Let's get an end zone look of it real quick. Right there. Good ball over the shoulder. Great job. Same deal, same play. Talked about the slip play against Missouri, but we also did hit the power play action off of this as well. We slipped the tight end out. Before it was the tight end that was lead blocking, but now we've got 2 backs in there. Slipped the tight end. Hanukkah who had a big game that week. So that'll be big for us. All right, this is against Kansas State last year. Got a little wraparound motion, zone option, throw back to the running back. Whatever that wrinkle is, but the option game, as I said, with the pass mixed in there needs to be in this game plan. I think it will help us. It was successful last year against these guys. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is the same DC, if I'm not mistaken. So, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we got to take shots. We've got a legit deep threat in Emmanuel Henderson, and he's shown to take a 15 to 25 yard reception and take it to the house. Okay, so we definitely got to take shots. K-State has shown that they sometimes get lost in coverage. They get lost in the secondary, using bad eyes and not finishing tackles. So if he is up on his feet and he does make a play or he does make a catch and the guy's there, we still have a good chance of breaking that tackle and, going to the house and getting the touchdown. So we definitely need to take shots with Henderson. And last but not least, but I always lead with this, but we got to run the ball. We've got to be able to run the ball. We've got a two-headed monster in Le'Shawn and Deuce Highshaw. So those guys are coming back. I think I saw a press conference with Coach Leipold where he talked about Highshaw steadily getting healthier. I think that's just, right now, coaches definitely want to protect the kids. It's not everybody's business what their health is. Sometimes that's used in a malicious way, but I digress. Running the ball. We got to be able to run the ball. You had Highshaw here, and here we have Le'Shawn right here. Good job being patient. Just a zone scheme right here. Sticking a foot, getting vertical, running through arm tackles, making moves on second and third level defenders. I think those types of plays, taking shots, running the ball, play action, pre-snap movements, motion, those things that Kansas have always done and they've done well. I think they need to, kind of maybe really focus on doing those 6 or 7 things. Now, obviously, I'm not the coach, but that's just my take on it. Now, let's talk about the Kansas State defense, okay? They base out of a 4-2-5 personnel, which means 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs. Now, watching them, I noticed that they've used a 6 defensive back. So they could be multiple. I don't know if it's a depth issue or just the way they want to play it, but it is a base 4-2-5, but you get different personnel within that look, okay? Their leading tacklers are their 2 inside linebackers, the Mike and the Will. Austin Romaine, 6'2", 245-pound junior, and Desmond Purnell, who's a 6 foot, 232-pound senior. Okay, so let's talk about personnel real quick. So we've got our 4D linemen, okay? So defensive end. Now, these guys may move. They may switch sides depending on the front strength or whatever the call is. So, but for right now, this guy's the nose, and this guy's the 3 technique. So he would consider a nose, and he would consider a defensive tackle, okay? So just wanted to give you a quick reference on those guys right here. Like I said before, this would be your Will linebacker because he's to the, if you will, the weak side of the offense or in the boundary. Mike linebacker right here, and then you have your nickel Sam, okay? Or it could be sometimes a regular Sam linebacker or a strong side linebacker, but right now I know for a fact it's their nickel Sam, which is a DB, which is actually a safety playing out here. And then you have your corners. Could be a field corner and corner, boundary safety, and field safety or free safety, okay? So that is the 4-2-5 personnel of Kansas State's defense, okay? All right, so let's look at some of the things that Kansas can do to exploit it. Okay, so right now Baylor's in a 2-by-2 tight end off line. K-State is in a 1 high. Looks like they're in a 3 match with cover 3. Got some bad eyes down here at the bottom on the slot safety. I don't know if he's supposed to, redirect this guy, get hands on him, disrupt his route. But this guy right here needs to do something to slow his route down, okay? Another thing I see here, this safety. Safeties are automatically in the middle of the field pre-snap. I don't know if, might be lined up over this tight end and sees what he does to kind of maybe split the difference between the tight end and this receiver over here. But he gets too wide. He's already in the middle of the field. If they're in some type of cover 3 scheme, then he's got to have the middle third of the field, okay? And what happens right now at the snap of the ball, maybe he's trying to read quarterback's eyes, but he's giving more of like a cover 2 high hash safety turn and run, but then he straightens back up and he's back to the middle of the field. But by then, he's too late because nobody's gotten any hands or disrupted this number 2 receiver right here, inside slot receiver. He gets a clean release. A lot of times you would think that this corner who has middle third is an apex player. And what I mean by apex player is that he's splitting the difference between the number 1 receiver and number 2 receiver, and that's how they are identified. Okay, and apex means off the snap of the ball, he needs to be right in the middle because he needs to be able to play both players once they clear probably 8 to 10 yards in coverage. And this is me guessing. It looks like he's trying to do it somewhat, but like I say, if nobody got hands on this guy right here, free release, touchdown. Okay, so that's some of the things that K-State has struggled with this year, giving up big plays. I think they gave up 501 yards of total offense against Baylor a couple weeks ago. Okay, right here, when the 2x2 set based off of depth, eyes, and leverage right here, it looks like we have man. Okay, now this guy right here, his eyes are in the backfield, so that's telling me right now either this safety's going to pick up this guy right here or they're in a zone scheme, which they're in zone, so it's like they're in a 4 to the field and a man to the boundary. Now they're also on the 11-yard line, 12-yard line. They're playing awfully soft. Now they're keeping, I know cover forward likes to keep everything in front of them and then go play. I think this safety here should do a better job of maybe, I don't know if he's trying to bluff the blitz, but get to his flat sooner. But nevertheless, he gets a chance to see the throw, square up on the running back. That's just a missed tackle right there. And another missed tackle by their leading tackler, Austin Romaine. So tackling is definitely an issue. I know tackling is an issue for our guys as well, but also has been an issue for Kansas State. So we need to be able to go at these guys. I think that's Daniel Cobb. He's actually he's a junior. He's a safety from the Fort Worth area. I know he's a Texas kid. All right, here we go. Another 2x2 set. Got a 1 high look. So right now, pre-snap, you would think that Kansas State's going to be in a cover 1 or cover 3 pre-snap. Now, post-snap, that could all change. Right here. Look at the safety. Indicators. Right there. So he's trying to disguise what this weak side safety is. He's blitzing. Okay. Now he's got to come over and be able to take this guy's man. I think he should have did a little better job of getting over here a little sooner, because it's like I say, you've got to get hands on. Offensive players hate to get hands on them. Offensive players hate for their route to be disrupted. They hate getting hit unnecessarily. Most offensive players do. There are some guys that go out there looking for contact, but speaking as a former offensive guy, we hate getting hit unnecessarily or having our routes or our paths thrown off or disrupted. Before we get to this pass, we see here that Kansas State shifts. They shift, bringing out, now they're in a over front, which is 3 technique to the field. Okay, they're in a 4 down. So we talk about over, under. Quick review: if they're in an under set, that means the 3 technique is to the boundary or to the weak side of the offensive formation. If they're in an over, that means the 3 technique or defensive tackle is to the field or to the strength of the offensive formation. Okay, so a lot of moving parts pre-snap, but I think it's a bluff to then slant right back to the field because they've got a weak side blitzer coming. Right here, in my opinion, this guy, he looks wasted or he's lost on what to do, because now they're slanting back, because they're slanting away to make space for the weak side blitz right here. Play action, or they give it to the back. Baylor's running a dart scheme, which is the tackle pull, man-on-man blocking. Running back does a great job staying tight to the A gap, and the gapping unit gets up the field. Another missed tackle by their leading tackler, Austin Romaine. Touchdown. So now just another example of missed tackles. we've got guys that are capable. Now, this running back for Baylor, he is a stud. He is a good running back. But I tell you, this defensive player is coming scot-free and missing, and that's a safety. Those are supposed to be the better of the tacklers compared to corners. They just run split zone right here. Sorry. 18 misses. All right, so those are just some of the things that I think Kansas State is susceptible to. Poor tackling, lost in coverage, not disguising well enough, or not getting over to the top to cover, men when they're blitzing and their defensive player is going to blitz and the secondary player has to cover, what have you. Unsound things like playing soft coverage in the red zone. I mean the low red, like the 11 to 10 yard line right there. I mean, that's just pitch and catch and letting guys be athletes in space. You want to press offenses in the red zone. Things get tighter. You have another defender in the back goal line, back of the end zone. Space gets shorter. You don't want to give them space, but I'm not here to help Kansas State. But nevertheless, I think Kansas offensively has a lot of opportunities out there we can take advantage. That's just been the nemesis for Kansas State. Just not much depth at the defensive line position compared to what Kansas faced against Texas Tech a couple weeks ago. Gave up 500 yards to Baylor. Gave up 234 yards on the run alone against Arizona. They're susceptible to the big play. Pass defense is a question. It's just, they've got some issues, and being 3-4 kind of reflects that. So, yeah, let's go to our defense. Okay, so let's talk about Kansas State on offense. Same quarterback, Avery Johnson, who, has had some issues with consistency, but who is a threat at any time. When I say, consistencies, you don't know, or being inconsistent, for a better word, you don't know what Avery Johnson is going to show up. And if you're a Kansas State fan, you hate that. But if you're an opponent, you also hate it too, because this kid could come out and just have the game of his life. He could kill you with his legs. He can throw the ball. He can lead the offense. He ignites the whole team as a leader, or he could struggle. So you just don't know what Avery Johnson is going to show up. This is a rival game, so no motivation is needed. But let's get a little more into what K-State does well and what Kansas has to be on the lookout for, in my opinion. So right now they're on the 5-yard line. We all know who Dylan Edwards is. His second year. This is his second year at Kansas State. Dynamic punt returner, dynamic running back who was at Colorado previously. Big play threat at any time. He can go. He is a stud. So right here, they're going to run counter. Specifically GY, guard and tight end. Gets a muddy look. Nobody gets across to the backside linebacker. You got to spill through. He bounces it, outruns the whole defense. This kid's fast. We've got to do a good job on our defensive end of maintaining gap integrity and shoring up tackling. Those are the two most important things I think that everybody would agree that Kansas needs to shore up. And of course, the quarterback's legs, the quarterback run. It could be quarterback draw. It could be off a scramble. It can be whatever. But this kid can actually run. So right here, they're in a 2x2 set, motion to empty, which causes the only backer in the box, which means between the both defensive ends, the only backer in the box to widen out. Now there's nobody in the middle of the field. Even this look right here for guys that's familiar with R4 and different offensive terms, middle of the field open, MOFO. Okay, middle of the field open, no linebackers in the box. They got what they want, and they're bringing pressure off the right there. I mean, wide open, and this kid can run. He didn't come too far. He was right up the middle of the field. He didn't come too far off the hash. So that tells me that he has supreme confidence in his foot speed alone. Let's get an end zone view of it right here. 5 for 4. 5 for 4. Kansas State has 5 to block Baylor's 4. Even though Baylor does bring a 5th, he ultimately runs himself out of the play. So it's 5 for 5. Great adjustment by Kansas State's offensive line. On their own 2-yard line right here, they're going to run split zone. Great job of blocking out. Tight end slices across to seal the backside, which is right on time because they're bringing pressure. Looks like a linebacker. Safety's coming to maintain that gap. He's also coming up hard. Ran himself out the play. Great tackle by the backside safety. But that's 9 yards right there. It's a great job. Joe Jackson has really emerged for Kansas State this year, who was also the leading rusher. Joe Jackson. Anyway, all right, so Kansas State also has a wrinkle of their own in the power game, the power read game, if you will. That's a popular scheme these days in the spread offense. Same deal here. Guard pull, doesn't get up the field. Tight end bluffs like he's blocking for the power. Gets away, hits him right there. That is a great red zone play. If you watched before earlier, Kansas, the Jayhawks, they run those power play action passes in the red zone. 30 on in, probably. I'll say red zone. 30 to 25 on in. They do a good job in that. Kansas State right here is on their 9-yard line, on Baylor's 9-yard line, and they hit them for a touchdown. Safety looked a little bit unsure about what he was doing. That's all it took. Right there. Ran right through him. It's a great job by that tight end. Kansas State tight ends are very good. They line up in a lot of 12 personnel, which is 1 back, 2 tight ends. In fact, here it is right here. So here's 1 tight end and here's the other tight end. That's 12 personnel. All right, so let's talk about our defense, the Kansas Jayhawk defense. Okay, so basically those guys got worn down against Texas Tech, showed some promise, had some major stops in the second half coming out when Texas Tech received the ball in the second half of their last game and got 2 back-to-back stops. So they've risen to the occasion. Game before that against Central Florida, they had to win the game and keep the offense out of the end zone to win the game, and they rose to the occasion. So I think our defense is trending upward. Health is an issue. But I think these guys are getting better as the year goes on, and hopefully they will peak at the right time. So talking about our defense, some of the things that we can do. So Coach Aranda is known for running the odd fronts or okie or tight, TITE, or mint. Okay, like I said, I don't want to get too deep into Baylor's defense, but basically they feature 3 down linemen. Okay, and they have on the line linebackers that gives them a 5-man front essentially, and they can add and drop guys as they will. So I'm showing this right here because I know Kansas has also played and kind of, threw some wrinkles in, giving a 3-down look, stand-up defensive end. But right here, they're running a version of their counter, which is with the guard and the other back. And Baylor does a great job of wrong shouldering and spilling the play and then filling gaps and defeating blocks. So let's look at the end zone real quick so we can see what I'm talking about. I think that's a key for Kansas too this year, or this week, if you will. Split in double teams. Counter has a lot of double teams in the scheme. We've got to do a better job of winning one-on-ones and splitting double teams. Also adding guys to the count for the offense, and we'll get into a little more as this film goes on. But right here, I just wanted to show this right here of what Baylor did a good job of stopping their counter scheme, getting after it, no gain. So our guys right here did a great job of rising to the occasion right here. So same deal we just talked about. Wrong shouldering and splitting double teams. We missed initially, but we split the double team, got pursuit, minimal gain 1. Okay. We've got to win up front. We've got to do what it takes right here. Play action pass. This is another wrinkle. Bringing second and third level defenders on blitzes. Okay. Do a good job right here. We bring the backer. Backer gets cut block, frees up the safety. Dive makes a hit that actually takes the quarterback out of the game. I don't wish injury on anyone, but does a good job right here of creating a turnover and getting a sack on the quarterback. That's a safety blitz right there, but coming through the same gap as the linebacker did. So we've got to do some different things and take some chances. Same deal here. Split zone with orbit motion by Central Florida, but we've got 5 on the line right now. Drop the end, but then we bring a backer. Adding to the count late. Comes right behind the tight end splitting, slicing across. Tackle for a loss. So those are things we got to do. We've got to play to our strength. We've got to be able to change it up and give different looks. Now, here's another example right here. So we just rushing 4. So when we do just rush 4, in my opinion, let's run a game, stunt game right here. Got a twist. Tackle goes here. In comes inside right here. Tackle for a loss. So I think splitting double teams, I think, winning one-on-ones when needed. When you're getting a one-on-one block, you've got to win that. Bringing second and third level pressure, giving a different look pre-snap, those things I think will fit right into the defensive game plan to stop Kansas State. Kansas State runs a lot of counter. Kansas State runs the quarterback. Okay, when we're running twists and stunts and things like that, that will give confusion to the O-line to who they have to pick up assignment-wise, which creates openings, which creates runs for losses, sacks, turnovers, what have you. So those are my keys, in my opinion, of offensively and defensively what Kansas can do to become victorious for the Sunflower Showdown. Both teams are coming off a bye week, so there's going to be some wrinkles. I expect it, so I don't expect either team just to play straight up and just offer what I've seen. But, mentioning some of those guys, if we can find a way to attack their weaknesses that they've shown in the past as far as, getting confused on pass coverages, missed tackling, things like that, not getting lined up or motion happens and they lose guys. I think we'll be all right. We'll see. But that's enough of that K-State talk. Now, let's move on. Let's talk about games to watch and predictions. So right now in the Big 12, I'll start. Obviously, I'm picking my Jayhawks. They're 2.5 to 3.5 point favorite. I don't care. We're going to win this game, man. We're going to get after these guys. We're playing at home. We're coming off a bye week. We're getting healthy. We're going to come out in our red unis this week. I already know what the uniform combination is going to be. That signifies Kansas State's blood. So the streets of Lawrence will run red with Wildcat blood. But I tell you what, man, that BYU Iowa State game is intriguing to me. Iowa State always shows up. You start getting into these October, November months. It's hard, man. It's hard to win in Ames. Oof. I speak for personal experience. Oklahoma State, they're just waiting to reset. They're catching Texas Tech off a loss, and they've already got their own issues. So that 30
does, does Tech cover that?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. It depends. It depends if they don't want to put their second string quarterback in harm's way off of some frivolous stuff, because I don't know Morton's status, because I know he didn't play last game. But I'm picking Baylor over Cincinnati. I like Baylor, man. I think I don't want to use the word lucky. Cincinnati's been fortunate. I'll just put it like that. But I think Baylor comes, and I think Baylor gets them. TCU, man, I still don't know, what they're doing out there. Kendall Browse and those guys, they do some great things offensively. West Virginia got to figure some things out. I think Arizona State is starting to find their stride, not just because they beat Texas Tech, but that does matter. And I think, what Coach, Dillingham was doing there, man, I like it. Houston, man, but Houston has been rolling. I think this is one of their, biggest tests, playing on the road, and I love Coach Prime, but Utah wins.
They
Glad
cover
it's that. Did they cover as 13.5? No, they
2
don't cover.
touchdowns. Okay.
Yeah, but they don't win. It might be like a 9 to 10 point game, I think. But my highlighted game, of course, I want to see the Pavia effect bust the Mizzou
I was about to
Tigers
say,
in
is
the
this a
head.
hate watch or is this you're a
All
fan of Diego?
If I'm being honest, it's a hate watch.
Okay.
It's a hate watch. If
Fair.
I'm being honest, it's a hate watch.
Fair.
It is what it is. But I have been impressed with Diego Pavia walking the talk. So I mean, he's backed up. Oh God, it's all right.
They built up that game in Tuscaloosa quite a bit. Brought Johnny Manziel on.
Yeah,
and they got rolled up a little bit. Now
yeah,
they got manhandled a little bit.
Just worry about when they come to Austin in a couple of weeks.
You'll see a different set of confidence out of me, because again, I'm a big believer in the haves and have-nots.
Okay. Tell me what you got. What you like about those picks you got over there?
I got Texas covering Mississippi State. Like I said, I think it'll be difficult. It's a 3:15 game. They got just enough time to get drunk, but not belligerent. Meaning. And why I say a night game, and I hope people understand this, maybe those who are not familiar with why SEC teams in night games have such a high win percentage. Because I don't know how many of you guys have been in this situation, but if you've ever tried to calm down a rowdy drunk person, it's not a thing, right? It doesn't happen. So if you allow these southern states and southern programs who have a high propensity to drink anyway to get liquored up all day, they're going to be loud and engaged in the game no matter what the score.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it becomes hard to take those people out of the game. Their team could be down 30. They're still going to be loud and rambunctious and keep going. But in the middle of the day, people still have a little bit of sense about them, so you can take them out the game.
Okay.
I think the Ole Miss Oklahoma game, give me Oklahoma. One, they just they don't lose in Norman very often. I think they're top 3 in home win percentage, even with the last couple of bad years they've had. So they just don't lose a whole lot in Norman. Can't say the same about Dallas though. I think Auburn is in disarray. You've got players and coaches at odds, and they kicking a kid off the team because y'all couldn't agree on the NIL number. Then you kind of disparage him a little bit, and then the team rallies around him, and that could go one of two ways. The team could rally around, and it could be the Gino Auriemma effect, where they play so well in spite of you because they hate you, not because they love you. But that's unlikely. I think Arkansas is starting to turn. I think they're averaging 7.1 yards per pass play or something like that. It's a crazy stat that's showing that their offense is picking up in a major way. So I've got Alabama covering South Carolina. I'm a big Shane Beamer guy. So I hate this year for him. But unfortunately in the SEC, ain't nobody going to pick you up. They're going to kick you while you're down and
100%.
And double back and kick you one more time. I'm not a fan, but I am a believer in the Diego Pavia show. I think they just play really smart. They don't do a whole lot to beat themselves, especially if you can keep Pavia within himself and not make him feel like he's got to be Superman. I'm a big Clark Lee guy, man. I hope for his sake, he strikes while the iron's hot and he gets his ass out of Nashville. I know he's a Vanderbilt guy, but I would like to see him, kind of put himself in a position to excel on a major stage, because I think he's really good. This is not a hate pick. This is LSU does not lose home night games in Tiger Stadium. Like, it just doesn't happen.
That 8 overtimes a couple years ago.
8 overtimes, right? And
it's always a good game.
And if you take out the losses to Alabama or Georgia, it's almost unfathomable for them to win, for them to lose a night game at home.
If A&M beats LSU at Death Valley, is people starting to question Brian Kelly?
I think people are questioning Brian Kelly regardless.
What?
I think they want him to go. I think LSU brass would let Brian Kelly out without a buyout. I really do. I sincerely do, because I think they're on the verge of, because now play it the other way, or where the play it out the way you're playing it. They still got some tough road games ahead. So you lose this one, hypothetically, you probably drop 2 more. We're probably talking about Brian Kelly getting fired, honestly. Which is an earthquake whenever this LSU job comes open. And it's actually surprising how often it comes open for it to be as rich in tradition and resources as it is. So I think we'll be talking about that in a couple weeks. And then I've got Tennessee over Kentucky. I'm hesitant to say that Tennessee does not cover. Because I think Kentucky is just, they're in the unenviable position of just playing. They're not playing for nothing. They're just playing.
And I think that last game took a lot out of them.
It did.
They were so close to y'all. I think it took a lot out of them. That's tough. It
did. So do you rally behind that and go in, or do you crumble? And I think they show up. I think they show up at home. I think the crowd, again, is going to be behind them. I think they show up. I think Tennessee, again, have-nots.
I got my own problems.
And we took it down, but what I'm watching, to my point earlier in the show.
Oh, you saw it up there. It's all about the SEC.
Earlier in the show, I think this is one of those weeks where, again, some conferences start. You've got 1, 2, 3 ranked matchups, right? And there's not another single one in the rest of the entire country. And you've got 3 in one conference. So I think you'll see this is where the leagues start to separate themselves for maybe those folks whom it hasn't already.
It'll be exciting. I say you're gonna be all SEC'd out. I appreciate you lending a hand to check in on your boy. But I'm telling you, I should have put my jersey on today. That's how I'm feeling. I'm just.
I'm rooting for you, man. 16 is tough. And what I do hate for you guys is the optics, right? Because if you've lost 16 straight and you win, you're going to celebrate like nobody's business.
I know. I don't care.
People are going to be like, damn, you celebrating because you beat a 3-4 team. Like, that's
I know. Terrible. Hey, we're only 4-3. I don't care. I don't care. Mind your damn business. You don't know what it is. Mind your damn business.
16 is crazy. 16 straight it's a mental gap.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that's what happened last year. You ultimately need to get the first down, and what do you say when you're holding on to a game to win it? Take care of the ball, do this and that. But that's the past. I love JD6. Where he lost to, he'll win this last one on his final curtain call in the Sunflower Showdown. So that's it, man. I appreciate it. Hey. A lot of good stuff today. I'm telling you, it's high energy. I know you can't wait till these Horns come back in town. That month-long road trip, that tour that those Horns have had. I think it's their last one, right? Last one on the road.
Yeah.
And they'll be back in town. But I'm ready, man. I can't wait for Saturday. But as always, rock chalk.
Praise the Lord and hook 'em horns, baby.
All right, we see y'all next time. Appreciate it. Oh, before we go, no, I just want to recognize, breast cancer month, the survivors. We're always here to support good causes, and there's people I know, at least in my family, I know as survivors. So just wanted to. Well, that's what's up. So I just wanted to recognize that, and just through prayer, through support, through walks. I used to always do a cancer walk, and just whatever. But just want to just send our love out there. But as always, we see y'all next time.
Hey, see y'all from Texas.